The engine that stopped an empire. How the 1945 general strike broke colonial rule and forged Nigerian independence. At 1 minute past midnight on June 22nd, 1945, the railway workers of Lagos did something that had never been done before in the history of British West Africa. They blew the train whistles, not for a shift change, not for cargo, but for liberation. The sound cut through the darkness. It was a signal, a declaration, and within hours, over 150,000 Nigerian workers had laid down their tools, folded their arms, and refused to move. The British Empire, which had ruled Nigeria with unchallenged authority since 1914, suddenly found itself gasping for air. This is not the story of a wage dispute. This is the story of how the Nigerian working class, led by a railway man named Pa Michael Imoudu, united across ethnic lines, broke the back of colonial rule and made independence inevitable. This is a remembrance, and this is a reminder to Nigerian workers everywhere to embrace class struggle. By 1945, Nigeria had spent 6 years at war alongside Britain. Nigerians had fought, bled, and died for an empire that repaid their sacrifice with hunger. The cost of living had risen by over 200% since 1939. Rents had skyrocketed, food was scarce, imported goods were priced beyond reach. Tuberculosis victims were multiplying. Workers and their families lived in rooms as small as 10 by 10 feet with 3 or 4 families to a room. Yet, wages had not moved. The colonial government had given corresponding increases to its European employees and supplementary allowances to their families. A European clerical worker earned over £20 per week, plus housing, leave, and child allowance. A Nigerian railway worker doing the same job earned 11 shillings per week. When the African Civil Servants Technical Workers Union wrote to the governor, Sir Arthur Richards, on May 21, 1945, they asked a question that cut through colonial hypocrisy. Have we fought this war in order to be exterminated by starvation? The Nigerian Trade Union Congress, a mere 2 years old but already representing over 100,000 workers, issued its demands: a minimum wage of 2 shillings, 6 pence per day, a 50% increase in cost of living allowance for all workers earning less than £48 per year, and a retroactive pay to April 1st, 1944. And they gave the government 1 month's notice, saying if their demands were not met by June 21st, the workers of Nigeria would seek their own remedy with due regard for law and order on the one hand and starvation on the other. Governor Richards, the same man who had earned notoriety for suppressing strikes in Jamaica, refused to meet with worker representatives. Increased wages, he said, would simply cause inflation. Then, on June 2nd, 1945, the government made a critical error. It released Michael Imoudu from 4 years of detention and exile. Imoudu was not a politician. He was a railway mechanic who had joined the Nigerian Railway as a laborer in 1929. In 1939, when trade unionism was legalized, railway workers gathered to register their union, but their chairman developed cold feet and refused to append his signature in spite of several appeals. Imoudu stepped forward and signed. The Railway Workers Union became Trade Union number 1, and Imoudu became Labour Leader number 1. Under his leadership, the union introduced a new rule: every petition, every appeal, and every negotiation must be backed by a strike ultimatum. He led a 5-mile protest trek to Government House in 1941, workers singing war songs and carrying placards reading, "Wilson must go or die." Wilson, being the railway's chief mechanical engineer, a white man workers called wicked. Governor Bodilon met with them, apologized repeatedly, granted nearly all their demands, and announced Wilson's transfer amidst a thunderous ovation. The colonial government had imprisoned Imoudu in 1943, hoping to silence him. He returned to Lagos on June 2nd, 1945, riding a white horse, and he was received like a conquering hero by 50,000 workers. The government had handed the workers their general. On June 22nd, 1945, at 1 minute past midnight, the railway workers blew the whistles. Rams were sacrificed to the gods of Mother Africa, and the strike began. The strike completely paralyzed the colonial administrative apparatus and economy for 45 days, lasting until August 5th, 1945. Within days, the entire transport, power and communication system of Nigeria were paralyzed. The unions that joined include the African Civil Service Technical Workers, African Railway and Engineering Workshop Workers, African Post and Telegraph Workers, Nigerian Electrical Workers, Nigerian Marine African Workers, Public Works Union, Lagos Town Council Workers, African Locomotive Drivers, Nigerian Union of Nurses, African Inspectors Union, Government Press Technical Workers, and Medical Department Workers Union. Private sector workers joined. Miners at the government-owned Enugu coal mines walked out. Even the grave diggers went on strike, and military personnel were forced to dig graves. The colonial government, facing a shutdown of the entire colonial economy, reenacted defense regulations that had been used to imprison union leaders during the war. Press censorship was imposed. The African Pilot and Daily Comet, two leading Nigerian newspapers, were suppressed for supporting the strikers. Governor Richards accused strikers of sabotaging transport and communications, leading to the derail of a train at Oshodi, cutting telephone lines. 10 strike leaders were arrested on frame-up charges. The government threatened to withhold all wages for June, cancel pensions, and void contractual rights. The workers' response was given at a huge mass rally in Lagos, where thousands swore on their tribal oath by our Mother Africa and the departed spirits of our ancestors not to return to work until their 5 demands were met. 1. Pay for the strike period. 2. Guarantee of pensions and rights. 3. No victimization. 4. Release of arrested leaders. And the last, the 2/6 minimum wage. When Bankole, the president of the NTUC, advised workers to return, he was immediately repudiated and expelled. Imoudu took leadership effectively. The strike brought together Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, and other Nigerian workers into a unified socio-economic front against a common oppressor. It bridged regional divisions and forged a shared national identity. This unity created a collective identity that made a nationwide independence movement possible. In the eastern region, a local leader named C.O. Obareke organized public support so effectively that goods were sold to strikers at low prices and many landlords suspended rent. In the northern region, strikers went door to door fundraising from the general public. In Lagos, market women led by Madam Alimotu Belewura provided food and funds. The strike resonated far beyond Nigeria. In London, over 2,000 Africans, colonial seamen, war plant workers held a mass rally in support of Nigerian labor. The Pan-African Federation organized solidarity meetings, collected about $2,000 for strikers' families, and sent 60 telegrams to unions in America, India, and the West Indies. Nnamdi Azikiwe, whose newspapers had been suppressed for supporting the strike, cabled his international network. Telegrams arrived from the NAACP, the Socialist Workers' Party, the United Auto Workers, and unions across the Caribbean. But the heroes of this story are the workers themselves and the man who led them. The British Colonial Office, facing domestic and international pressure, found its propaganda crumbling. It had claimed that any wage increase would not only be operated to the detriment of the wage earners themselves, but would result in the deterioration of the general economic situation. The workers held for 45 days. The colonial economy remained paralyzed. In the first week of September 1945, 500,000 Nigerian workers celebrated their own V-Day. Governor Richards, on instructions from the new Labour Party Colonial Secretary George Hall, broadcast a statement conceding to virtually all demands: a minimum wage of 2 shillings, 6 pence per day, full wages for the strike period, release of all arrested strike leaders, re-employment of all government workers, lifting of the ban on suppressed newspapers. The Tudor Davis Commission was established to formalize the wage increases and implement a 50% cost of living allowance. But the real victory was invisible and more dangerous to the empire. A Nigerian worker who had seen the colonial government blink would never fully fear it again. The NTUC issued a manifesto congratulating the workers and concluding, "Workers of Nigeria, unite." The 1945 strike did more than force constitutional change. It transformed the independence movement itself. Before 1945, Nigerian nationalism was fragmented, elitist, and moderate. Educated elites wrote petitions and made speeches. They asked for gradual reform. After 1945, everything changed. The success of the strike sidelined conservative Nigerian elites who wanted a slow, peaceful transition. It empowered radical nationalists and labor unions who demanded immediate self-rule and absolute independence. The Nigerian Trade Union Congress, now representing over 500,000 workers in 86 affiliated unions, became a political force that no governor could ignore. Strikes continued. The brutal strike of 1947, the Enugu colliery strike of 1949, where police shot and killed striking miners. Each strike was a hammer blow against colonial authority. Each strike pushed the constitutional timetable forward. The British government understood what had just happened. The 1945 strike was not a one-off event. It was proof that Nigeria was becoming ungovernable through force alone. The response was a desperate series of constitutional reforms, not because Britain believed in Nigerian democracy, but because every reform was a retreat from the precipice of total collapse. The strike directly influenced the drafting of the Richards Constitution of 1946, implemented in 1947, named after Governor Richards, the same man who had tried to break the strike. It was an admission that the old system could not continue. The Constitution established regional assemblies in the north, east, and west. For the first time, northern and southern Nigerians would sit together in the National Legislative Council. But Nigerians were not consulted. Richards imposed the Constitution without seeking input from nationalist leaders. It was rejected, but it opened the door. Governor Sir John Macpherson, who took office in 1948, learned from his predecessor's error. He made history as the first colonial governor to allow Africans to have input into the documents that explained how they were to be governed. Drafts were debated at conferences from the village level to the central level. Nigerians were asked specific questions about federalism, regions, and central powers. The Macpherson Constitution created ministerial positions for Nigerians for the first time. Nigerians were no longer just advisors, but were ministers. But within 2 years, the Constitution collapsed. A series of constitutional conferences from 1953 to 1958 produced the Littleton Constitution of 1954, the document that formally made Nigeria a federation. Powers were divided between central and regional governments. Each region had its own executive council with Nigerian ministers. By 1959, the major political parties agreed that Nigeria should become independent in 1960. On October 1, 1960, Nigeria became independent. The change from the railway whistle to the Nigerian flag is unbroken. The 1945 General Strike, Colonial Vulnerability Exposed. Richard's Constitution, 1946, rejected for lack of consultation. Macpherson Constitution, 1951, Nigerian imputes, flawed implementation. Littleton Constitution, 1954, formal federalism, independence, 1960. Without the strike, the pace of constitutional reform would have been leisurely. The British would have negotiated on their own timeline, but the strike proved that Nigerians could shut down the colony. The next strike might not end with negotiations. It might end with a revolution. But we must stop here and tell the full truth. Independence in 1960 was not liberation. It was a flag-changing event that enables the system to preserve itself. The same nationalist elites who claimed to have fought colonialism once in power largely maintained the colonial structure. Extraction continued. Centralized top-down rule continued. The division of the working class by ethnicity and region continued. Only the faces changed. White masters were replaced by black faces, willing to continue the colonial structure. This is not an accident. The British did not grant independence out of generosity. They transferred power to those who would protect British interests. The internal corrupt leaders, the foot soldiers to the imperial masters, were already in place. This is why the 1945 strike matters today. The workers in 1945 understood class consciousness. They understood that their enemy was not a race, but a system. They understood solidarity across ethnic lines. Their descendants have been asked to forget that memory. This remembrance is a recovery. The 1945 General Strike was not a historical accident. It was a choice. Over 150,000 workers chose to stop, and in stopping, they moved history. The lesson for today is simple but profound. You are the engine. The imperialist political foot soldiers cannot oppress Nigerians without your direct or indirect complicity. The billionaire's factory does not hum without your hands. The foreign company's profits does not leave our shores without your labor. The colonial government in 1945 believed it could rule forever. It had armies, police, prisons, and the full weight of the British Empire behind it. But when the workers stopped, the empire gasped. When the ports slept, London listened. When the whistles blew, the governor blinked. The strike succeeded because it was not divided by ethnicity. Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, and other Nigerian workers stood together. They recognized a common oppressor and forged a common front. That unity was not automatic. It was built. Imoudu and other labor leaders worked to overcome divisions. They proved that the working class has more in common with each other than with any governor, any politician, or any billionaire. Today, the colonial master wears a different suit, sometimes an IMF loan with conditionalities. Sometimes a local politician who speaks your language but serves foreign capital. Sometimes a multinational corporation that extracts Nigeria's resources and leaves poverty behind. The internal corrupt leaders, humanity abusers, the foot soldiers to their imperial masters are protected by the same division that the colonial government perfected. The 1945 strike offers the antidote: solidarity. Not solidarity as charity, not as a slogan, but as a weapon. The recognition that your neighbor's struggle is your struggle, that a worker in Kano and a worker in Port Harcourt have the same enemy, that the only force that can break the new chains is the same force that broke the old ones. Organized, united, class-conscious workers willing to stop the engine of neo-colonialism. This is not a history lesson. It is a remembrance. The workers of 1945 gave everything, including their wages, their security, and their freedom for 45 days. They faced arrests, censorship, threats, and the full violence of the colonial states, and they won. It is a reminder: the power that stopped an empire in 1945 is not gone. It is only dormant. It waits for the next generation of workers to remember what their grandparents knew. When the engine stops, the master walks. Pa Michael Imoudu, the railwayman from Edo State, the lion-hearted labor leader number 1, showed the way. History may forget Pa Imoudu, but will never forget labor leader number 1. If you believe in building that power today, join the New Nation Project, a movement committed to organizing, educating, and mobilizing for real social change. Be part of the next chapter.